So today I want to talk about a TV show. It's called What's up guys, my name is Graham. I am a variety streamer over at twitch.tv/Graham Plays, and I also run this YouTube channel where I talk about anything in the gaming industry, normally the gaming industry, which happens to catch my eye. Today I want to talk about something a little bit different because I've not been playing games, I've been watching TV shows, and I want to talk about one that I particularly like, which is called Invincible, as the intro suggested. Invincible is an animated superhero show on Amazon Prime here in the UK. I'm assuming it's the same everywhere. It's based on a comic book series by the same name from Robert Kirkman, who some of you may know as the creator of The Walking Dead. It revolves around the story of Mark Grayson, aka the titular hero Invincible, who is effectively the son of this universe's Superman, although he's not actually called Superman. And it sort of follows his journey as he discovers his powers, starts to learn the ropes of becoming a hero, and all that sort of entails. But things in this world are not what they first might seem. This is going to be a sort of spoiler-free review in that I'm not going to outright say anything that directly happens in the show. I'm not going to actually run through any of the events of the show. But as I kind of alluded to there, the show has a thing, and it's kind of impossible to review it without actually talking about what the premise of the show is. So I kind of have to go into that a little bit. So if you're super sensitive about spoilers and that sort of thing and want to go in completely blind, I would suggest turning off. I watched it not knowing what the shtick was, but kind of being vaguely aware that there must be something to it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I would kind of suggest going in that way. So if you want to go in completely blind, this is your last chance to leave. Are they gone now? Is it safe? So as I alluded to before, Invincible is not just a straight superhero story. There is a thing to it. Given that they're both Amazon shows, it's kind of difficult not to draw comparisons to The Boys, although that's live action and has a bit of a different shtick to it. And Invincible spends a lot of its first episode sort of trying to convince you that it's something that it's not. But once that payoff eventually hits, I found I was totally fucking hooked straight away. I won't say what actually happens. In terms of the sort of effect that it has, I would liken it to, say, the end of the first Song of Ice and Fire book, or first season of Game of Thrones, the show, where George R. R. Martin unceremoniously chops off Ned Stark's heads. Spoilers for a book that came out in 1993. That's George R. R. Martin's way of telling you, this is not fucking Lord of the Rings that you're in. The rules are different here. The hero does not always win and save the day. And it sort of puts you on edge for the rest of the series and sets up things that will sort of come to happen later on, and other shocking events that happen throughout the series. Now in Invincible, it's not a direct one-to-one comparison here, otherwise it would have just fucking ruined everything, but there is a payoff, and that's Robert Kirkman's way of saying this is not the things that you've watched before. And from that moment all the way until the satisfying, if slightly predictable conclusion, I found that I was thoroughly invested in the central narrative of the show. This is helped immeasurably by the absolute fucking insane cast that Invincible has, from Stephen Yeun, who you might know from The Walking Dead, Oscar-nominated Stephen Yeun, I think. Did Stephen Yeun win the Oscar? From Stephen Yeun, who plays Mark / Invincible, to Sandra Oh, who plays his mum, J.K. Simmons, who plays Omni-Man, Invincible's father, to a whole host of recurring and cameo characters who are played by various celebrities. I found that literally every episode I was going, wait, I know that voice, and then looking up and going, oh my god, that's X, you know what I mean? I won't spoil who shows up in it. For me, the particular MVP is Sandra Oh as Mark's mum, but everyone is good more or less. The only person I had a problem with was Walton Goggins, who plays some government guy, Cecil Stedman, and I think his voice for me just didn't really fit the face of the character. Other than that, the cast is so amazing, so good. Another thing that totally kept me hooked was the action. There's a lot of fighting and blood and guts in Invincible, and for an animated show it all feels really, really impactful. And when the characters are sort of flying about the screen or punching each other or doing whatever it is that superheroes do, it feels like it really packs a punch kind of thing, which is surprising to me for an animated show. I thought the animation and the sound design in particular for the fights was really well done, and it kept me sort of glued to the screen. Speaking of sound, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the actual music for the programme as well, which is really impressive. It sort of mixes an orchestral score that you might expect to find in a more sort of traditional live action superhero thing with actually licensed music in a really cool way. You quite often see some of the orchestral stuff in the fight scenes where you'll find, big swells and whatever to increase tension or sort of increase the impact of a blow or whatever. All round, sound and music's really well done. So far I've given it a pretty glowing review, but I did have some problems with it that I think are worth mentioning. I talked about the first episode and how it really gets me hooked from the get-go. It does lose some of that momentum towards the middle of the series. The show really suffers from a pacing and bloating problem. It builds up all this tension with the first couple of episodes, and then in the middle gets sort of bogged down with more traditional kind of tropey superhero stuff where, Mark's struggling with balancing superhero and school life and, struggling with lying to his girlfriend about his double life that he's leading. It's all stuff that we've seen a million times in every superhero movie ever for the last 20 years, and B, it was never really that interesting to begin with, so I think it could have really shaved some of that bloat off, and it would have been a much smoother experience. I think more than anything it wastes quite a lot of that tension that the start of the show really builds up, and it becomes just more of a cookie cutter superhero thing in the middle. But then it does kind of ramp up again towards the end and become more interesting, and it gets back a bit of what it lost. Overall, the good stuff was still enough to keep me hooked, and the conclusion, whilst a little predictable, left enough things unanswered that I'm still excited for seasons 2 and 3, which have already been greenlit. So good news there. Generally speaking, I think Invincible's a solid first season of television. There's a lot to really like there and get your teeth into. As I say, it's not perfect. It does suffer from some pacing issues and feels a bit bloated in the middle, but it's still thoroughly enjoyable, and I would recommend it to anyone who enjoys anything superhero related. I keep fucking turning my head as soon as I finish a sentence. It's like a disease. I know I'm doing it, but I can't fucking stop it. I'm literally going, okay, this next take, I'm going to keep my fucking head straight when I finish the sentence, and I go, no, it's not what they seem. It's just fucking, honestly. I'm going to do it one more time. But things in this world are not what they first seem.